Hey guys, and welcome to week one of Business Strategy. My name is Andy Kavanagh, and I'll be taking you guys for the next 6 weeks or so of this unit's online lecture content. This week, we're going to give you a bit of an introduction to what exactly is strategy, and certainly in this first video here, give you a brief rundown of the unit itself. Alright, so as you can see here, I am the Chief Examiner for the unit. I'm based at Caulfield, but am also the Chief Examiner for the unit that runs in Berwick. As you can see, my office is in Caulfield, level 7 of Building N. That's my phone and email address there. Do contact me if you have any serious concerns throughout the semester. You'll also see here that the unit coordinator for both the Caulfield and Berwick campuses is Dr. Sarah Lindsay, and she'll be taking the weeks 7 to 12 of your online lecture content. She's also based here at Caulfield and is contactable by that particular phone number and that email address that you see on the screens in front of you. But as I say, does also take responsibility for the unit in Berwick as well. In terms of your workshop facilitators, if you're based here in Caulfield, then you will have either myself or Kendall Herbert as taking your workshops for you. If you're based in Berwick, then you'll have one of Naomi Waihara or Xander Ong taking your workshop classes for you. They are all, obviously I won't talk about myself, but the other 3 workshop facilitators that you see there are all very highly qualified. They've had experience teaching in this area and will be fantastic to you, I'm sure, throughout the course of the semester. As a general rule, what we say is if you have any queries to do with whether it's the unit itself, the content, or anything else within MGF or MGB 3684, first of all, ask your workshop facilitator, whichever one is responsible for your particular class. Then if they're not able to provide you with an adequate answer, then go and speak to the lecturer for that particular week, whether it's either myself or Sarah Lindsay. And then finally come to me. Now, some of you may find that I am your workshop facilitator, lecturer, and chief examiner in the one time, at the same time rather. In that case, come to me. But obviously, follow that as a general course of action when trying to get a response for any queries you may have. Just a bit about myself first, to give you a bit of background about me and how I got to this position. I have been at Monash for a long time now. Certainly I started doing my double degree undergrad here in both management and marketing here at Monash. I then went on to do my honours degree in management and then a PhD in international business, which falls under the broader management banner. So I've had a fair few years as not only a staff member but a student as well here at Monash. In terms of my interest and research areas, but also my teaching areas, I look at and specialise in such things as international business, strategy, corporate entrepreneurship, entry modes, FDI, and so on, and do have a few personal interests that I dare say may appear throughout the course of the semester. You'll see that is my car there on the right of your screen, my 1966 Ford Mustang, and that is my pride and joy. And if you see her about on the campus grounds, do be kind to her. She's old and fragile. I am a massive St Kilda tragic. Unfortunately, I do follow the Saints, which means most of my weekends are spent in misery. But we are getting there. One day we will be a decent team. And I am in a band. The greatest band you have never heard of, who are known as Vesperlin. As you can see, that's me, and down in the bottom center picture there in the Nirvana. You can describe, I guess that's a singlet, barely. But as I say, if you hear these sorts of things, if you find they do appear throughout the next 6 weeks, I apologise in advance. I do tend to make mention of them at various stages. In terms of the learning outcomes for the unit overall, we have a few here. First of all, to explain and apply the core concepts of business strategy. What are we actually talking about here? Hopefully by the end of this semester, you will have a strong grasp of what that concept, business strategy, actually means. Hopefully analysing and evaluating the influence of key contextual variables on a business's strategy. So what are those factors that will influence how a company actually comes about in determining, developing and then implementing their strategy? Applying and critically appraising the business strategy formulation, implementation, and evaluation concepts and the relationships between them. So you'll notice as we go through the following 12 weeks that there is a bit of a story to tell in the development of a business strategy through that initial formulation, putting it into place through the implementation, and then also evaluating it as time goes on. Finally, illustrating and judging future directions and trends for forming, implementing, and evaluating business strategy. From weeks 7 to 12, we're going to go through some of the key contemporary issues that fall under business strategy and what they mean for your role as a manager once you do leave university and get higher ranking jobs. So hopefully by the end of this semester, you'll have a good understanding of each of these 4 outcomes here, as well as what is strategy and how it will also, importantly, be useful to you guys once you do go and get those jobs. Alright, so you may still be thinking, look, I'm not so sure about this, Andy. I'm not sure if it's really relevant to me or if it's certainly even going to be interesting to me. Well, I've got a few questions. If you drive a car, if you own an iPhone, an iPad, or a MacBook, or if you've ever even considered going and traveling to the US or to anywhere in Africa, then this unit will be of interest, at least in some way, to you. I can tell you that it is quite a wide-ranging unit, and we do cover a lot of contemporary and key issues today, hopefully a lot of which will actually be directly relevant to your lives right now. So a lot of the things that we'll be talking about are hopefully things that you'll not only understand but can also relate to, and will see the clear importance of developing a greater understanding, not just in terms of getting a job in the future, but also understanding key things in your life as it is now. In this unit, we look at companies like Apple and Toyota, as well as larger companies and their expansion overseas into markets such as the US and Africa, and look at why some have done well and why also some haven't. Now, this is going to be useful for when you get a job after uni, so you yourself will prove to be a very valuable, knowledgeable asset for your company after developing these skills and knowledge around the strategy. And the cases will be based around interesting companies that hopefully you will or have already encountered in your everyday life. God knows everyone has to deal with apples at some point, don't we? So it brings together also many of the previous management units. So if you're in your final year or your second year of a management degree or even a major, you will likely find that many of the concepts have come up somewhere, and we will hopefully be tying them together in a coherent whole in this unit. Alright, so in terms of the format of this particular unit, you'll find that there is a lot of online content. It is a flipped unit, so there are no in-person lectures. You don't have to rock up to a lecture theatre and sit there getting bored. You can do so in the privacy of your own home and at whatever time suits you. So there are weekly lecture content and videos that will be made available on the Moodle site, at least from the Friday before the corresponding week. So for example, the week 2 materials will be made available by the Friday of week 1. It is really important that you view these videos as well as look at additional reading materials that will be posted on Moodle for extra and additional reading. All of the activities that we do undertake in the workshops themselves will be based on this online content. So if you don't have a look at them, then you literally will not understand what is going on in the workshops. So it's vital that you do have a look at that. It's also vital that you attend the workshops themselves. You'll find that a lot of the things that you learn in the workshops are going to be super, super important for your assessments, and plenty of hints will be provided to you. So it's in your best interest to make sure that you're actually attending those workshops. The workshops do begin in week 1. Now, hopefully you have your very own Channing Tatum in your classes. He hopefully may not be well, having as much of a good time as Channing Tatum from 21 Jump Street there. But it is important, as I say, that you do attend your workshops for a few reasons. First of all, in week 1, we will be getting to know one another. I know you're probably already sick of icebreakers by now, but they are important, especially given that there is a group assessment for this unit. So getting into groups and developing those groups will give you an advantage if you can do that in that first week. You'll find that key concepts for your first assessment task are also provided to you in the first week. So it is really important that you do attend from week 1. The reading list, there is no text for this unit. Now, we think that's a great thing. You guys can save a lot of money and spend them on much more important things like alcohol. But in all seriousness, it will mean that you do have to keep up to date with the online reading list. We do provide both textbook chapters from a variety of different texts that can be specialized and suited to and adapted for that particular week's topic. So you do have to make sure that you're constantly checking them online. There are access to these chapters and readings made available to you on the Moodle site every week. Under each week's tab, there is a reading list for that particular week, including the relevant textbook chapter. So make sure that you are reading that. As I said before, the better understanding you have of that online content and the readings and the videos, the much better you will go in the weekly workshops in terms of understanding the content. A few useful websites here. I can guarantee, despite Grumpy Cat's protestations, they will be useful and not completely awful. So do have a look at those, especially when it comes to referencing. If you're not familiar with the APA style, please have a look at that and get your head around that, because that's the style that we will rather be using throughout the semester. In terms of Caulfield students, for those of you at Berwick, I have a slide coming up in terms of the assessment in a minute, so you can tune out or fast forward the video to that if you would like. For the Caulfield students, so there are 2 assessment items, just 2. And the first is a 50% presentation that is due on Sunday, the 11th of September 2016 at 11:59 p.m. Now that Sunday is at the end of week 7. So the Sunday of week 7 is when the group presentation is due. There are 2 parts. The first is a presentation itself, which you will do in a group. The second is the individual peer and self-assessment component. You go to your workshops over the first couple of weeks, and the workshop facilitator will do a much better job than me of explaining that to you in more detail. It will involve recording a video presentation, so it's not in class. It is delivered in a video recorded format, which will be uploaded to YouTube and sent to your workshop facilitator for marking. It's based on a case which looks at the company Walmart and expansion into Africa, and there will be 4 questions that your group will be asked to answer as part of the group presentation. The second assessment is a strategic business plan report, which is also worth 50%. This is due on Sunday, 23rd of October of this year at 11:59 p.m, so before midnight again. This time on the Sunday of week 12, so the very last day of week 12. Any time before midnight is when we would like you to submit that. It's a 3,000 word report that very much brings together all of the key concepts from this semester. You will be asked to choose a company from a list that we provide to you of about 4 or 5 that will be delivered to you about mid-semester, and prepare a strategic business plan report that will address 3 key questions. Do have a look at Unit Guide for more detail there. And again, they will also be discussed throughout the semester in your workshops. For the Berwick students, you also have a presentation. It's worth 35% of your overall mark and is due on Sunday, 11th of September 2016 at 11:59. So again, by midnight of Sunday of week 7. So by the end of week 7 is when we want it due. Recorded video group presentation, so it is that group presentation only in video format, not delivered in class. There are 4 questions that you'll answer on the case of Walmart in Africa. This will be discussed in more detail in your workshops, especially in week 1 and 2. You also have an individual argumentative essay, which is worth 25%. And this is due on Sunday, the 16th of October before midnight. So that's the Sunday of week 11. It's 1,500 words in length, and the topic and details can be seen in the unit guide and will be discussed at a later date in more detail in your workshops. Finally, there is also an exam. It is a 2-hour closed book exam, and obviously the date will be determined later and announced to you in that exam period.